All right, people. It's the mouth of the North, Andrew Reese. I am live with you. I'm waiting on my friend Hopefull to join me. We're going to be talking Raptors and their struggles all season long. We're also going to talk about Pascal Siakam and his struggles. We're going to talk about the bench, which has been terrible all season long, and about some players that have come up in the conversation this week, like Will Barton possibly being the backup point guard and Koloko returning to the team, and also the future prospects of the Raptors, the offseason, the draft. We're going to get into all of it as I wait for Kenyon to come on. We're hoping you can join us and give us your thoughts, share what you think, and we will respond on below with your comments. So I'm just waiting on him, and we're just going to send out the invite to everyone. And hopefully you guys will join us.
So I'm not just depressed, I am official. Well, I'm not thinking about it. I mean, helping people get better. So I just really doesn't fix it. So becoming a solo dependent, I could still be involved. But now you're really in the management.
I'd like you to eat some of the noodles.
A few months ago, you went to a sport meeting. I just thought to myself, I used to really become my job. And then I started to think about how far you've come.
The lab tested your materials and they're a perfect match for stuff. Sites of the attacks by the medicine responded in 2008. You're going up.
Downstairs, they're upset. They don't understand what's going on. Talk to you. What do you make that happen? Like the Tuesday inspectors.
Hey, Tim, how's it going? I hear you're traveling, my friend. I hear you're traveling. I wanted you to come on with me, but, you're traveling. Hopefully we can get some comments from you once we get started. I'm waiting on our boy Hopefull. He's just getting himself set up, and we're going to dive deep into this. As you can see, I got my lovely background. My wife created this. Me and you know all about the Reese name, as you can see behind us. And, well. I think he's here. I just can't hear him yet. Hold on, I cannot hear you. 1 second. Kenyon, Mr. Hopefull.
Hey.
There he is.
Can
All
you
right.
can you hear me at all or no?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. And let me know if there are if there's like feedback on your end.
Right now you're fine.
Perfect.
You seem to be good. It looks like Tim has already noticed us.
Yeah.
So he's good. We just got to get other people on here. Although I guess that how do they? Don't mind me, people. This is my first time, but how do they know we're here, Kenyon?
So I think if they follow you or if they're subs, it will show up as soon as they're on YouTube. It will show up in that initial notification.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
obviously, I'll plug this for you. Hit like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell and all that good stuff.
Yes,
That's always important.
yes, of course. Guys, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 639. I'm getting there. I've been all over Twitter trying to whore my name, okay, because, you know, Raptors Live TV, adding all these people, trying to get people to listen and join, talking about the Raptors. Guys, please subscribe, like, comment. We're going to be doing way more Raptors content in the next little while as the football season has ended, although the off season is already underway and is on fire. But yes, I am going to cover this team that frustrates me to no end and leads to many conversations with the man on my right. And that's what we're going to be doing today. You may want to call it a therapy session, but for me, it's just basketball talk. And I do respect the man a lot, which is why I have invited him on my channel to talk, because he's someone who makes sense and sort of keeps me level, because I have a tendency to stray and give the real hot takes with thinking, but I do have a good basketball mind. But this is my leveler right here. So we're going to start. I really hope everyone joins in the conversation and talks to us. We already got Tim, who's looking forward to listening, as we are as well. So we need the stream link. Okay, just a second here before we get started. Hold on here. So you can get
see if you have a stream link, let me know, and then I can share it out for you.
Okay, so there's the stream link. Of course, that's the invite link. Is that the same thing? My bad.
You know what? I'll find it for you. I'm gonna go to your channel and I'll find it.
Oh, okay, perfect. You know what? It's that's the thing. I should be looking at this on my channel, but yes. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, find it for me. That's why I brought Kenyon on, guys. It's my first time, so I'm trying to do a little bit more live content so I can prepare myself for if the Raptors make the playoffs, which is still an if, the way they're playing. They have struggled mightily on the road, and we're going to get into that and talk about that. Let's see here. Kenyon, I'm told your voice off.
You're told that we're both off. Off about what?
Well, Tim says that your voice is off, and it sounds a little cartoonish. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I can't hear myself right now. So.
It does sound like your voice is very high pitched.
It could be the settings of the mic or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
1 second, let me see.
Tim says
you're just cracking up right now. Yeah, it's funny because I listened to the link the other day, or a couple minutes ago, and I did sound a little different. I have no idea why. It's very odd.
Yes. Well, there you go. How do I sound? Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound the same. I'm sorry that I have a cartoonish voice right now. I have no idea why, but yeah. Hold on, let me just see.
Okay, now. Okay, so do I sound fine, Tim, or is Kenyon good now?
All right. Well.
Yes.
Does that help a lot, or at all? I turned down the gain.
Sounds better to me.
Okay, that's good. Well,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. So Tim says we're good. Thank you, Tim. That's very nice of you to get us started because we don't have me on here. For all you all that are on my channel, please join us. Give us your thoughts and questions as we go through this. We're going to be talking for a little while here. We're going to go through some things, and I thought it was a good time with the Raptors coming off a 1-4 road trip. Well, maybe not a good time for the Raptors, but Tim says you still sound like helium. Oh, God. Man, the timing of this. Well, we're gonna go and hope it gets better. But we'll wait because Kenyon is muted, and then we will talk.
Is that different?
Oh, I think that's better. Go ahead,
Okay,
keep talking.
I changed my.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. That's way better. Way better. Yes. Wow.
Yeah,
now you sound like the real Kenyon.
I don't want to talk in every single second you're laughing because you're laughing at my voice, even though it's like not my voice. So.
You sound like the normal, hopeful Kenyon now, although your mic keeps muting. So I don't know why that's happening. But
I mute myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to start, and guys, I'm honestly because I haven't had Kenyon on my show before, so really this is me more talking to Kenyon, asking him questions, me reacting off of him, and then us sort of debating back and forth, and then you guys can come in. I know a lot of people are talking about the Raptors right now and have their concerns. We've got 2 spaces going on right now on Twitter. There seems to be a space every day talking about this team, and that's clearly frustration. So let's see what we all think about this. So this is the big one. My friend Kenyon, there's a reason why his name's Hopefull, and I'm going to test his hope during this interview. Pascal Siakam. I am a fan, guys. I not hated, but I was against Pascal after the championship season. I will fully admit it. He struggled, in my opinion, during the bubble and in Tampa, but so did most of the Raptors. He has definitely changed my mind. He's proved me wrong. He's become one of the top players in the NBA. But let's talk about the last 5 games. And in general, on the road, Pascal Siakam has really struggled on the road this year. You can see his shooting percentages are quite different, especially from the 3-point line, where he's a 40% shooter and 26% on the road. And this past 5-game trip, which is an important trip if you want the Raptors to make the playoffs and be competitive, they went 1-4, and Pascal struggled mightily. He averaged 15.8 points, 42% from the field, and 33% from 3. And he struggled on the defensive end. In the second half, he was particularly not there. I don't want to say he's invisible or anything. It's just that he wasn't really involved in the offense like you would expect. I mean, he had games where he was 0 for 6, 1 for 5, not really involved, not taking a lot of shots. He was 1 for 6 in the fourth in another game. The Denver game, he was good, but the other 4 games, he really wasn't there. And I want to ask Kenyon, what has happened to Pascal since the break that has caused him to drop so much in quality minutes?
Well, not to deflect, but I think if you look at a lot of other Raptors and you look at the home away splits, it's jarring. Now I'm going to bring up someone, and this is not because I'm trying to take sides in any sort of debate or anything like that, but just to bring someone up. Scotty Barnes. So you look at his home, you look at his away stats, and I'll just talk about his 3-point shot, for example. At home, he's shooting almost 35%. Away, he's shooting 26%. So I wouldn't just put it on Pascal in terms of the away stats. But to get to the second part of your question, which is, okay, Pascal has been slumping. We did get an acquisition. That acquisition, I think when the first game, it looked pretty solid, minus losing.
Yeah.
But I mean, the process looked better, and like overall, there's a lot of things that looked better on the court visually, which is good. Um, so I think that after that, it's tough to acclimate a guy like Pirtle because yes, there's a lack of spacing, but also when a guy like that changes things so much,
Yeah.
yet has obvious deficiencies, I mean, the trade deadline happens and then All-Star break happens, and you're already 2/3 of the way through a season. So
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of time to kind of acclimate everyone. Now, I'm not trying to place blame anywhere, but what I'm saying is Siakam has slumped. Um, his usage has gone down. I think if I were to look at coaching, Nurse has definitely gone more to the Fred Pirtle pick and roll. Part of that is because it gets Fred more involved back in the offense and allows Fred to do certain things. Whether or not you agree with that or not, that's fine. But that has looked good. But at the same time, by doing that, you're leading to a lower usage of Pascal, who right now is your best offensive option or weapon, if you will.
So how do I look in? Let's just use the last game where Scotty and OG get 30 points apiece. Did it happen just because they were hot and Pascal needed to step aside, or is it a situation where Pascal just hasn't been aggressive enough, wanting the basketball or maybe forcing his game? And the reason I asked this is because he did comment about it earlier today. He basically said he's got to figure out the flow of the offense, which was a little troubling for me because does that mean that he's having trouble adjusting to Jakob Poeltl being in the lineup, or what has changed?
Again, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's Jakob specifically that he's struggling to get used to, but it might be because they're going away from him, right? If they're gonna go to more Fred pick and rolls, it's taking the ball out of Pascal's hand. The thing is that Fred can have moments where he's a decent passer, but at the same time, he's a very conservative passer. So he's not my favorite passing talent on, Fred's a decent passer, but he's not the best playmaker on the team. And so
Right.
you would probably say that would be Siakam and Barnes. With Barnes by next year, he's going to be much better than Siakam, in my opinion,
Right.
playmaking wise.
Right.
So,
Right.
It's
So I guess my retort to that is, why not use Pascal as the ball handler in the pick and roll, which has worked with Poeltl. We saw it work very well, and have Fred VanVleet standing, waiting to shoot the basketball. Isn't that a better option?
I mean, I would do the same, but I wouldn't have Fred standing.
Well, moving around, he should be moving around looking for an open shot. Yes.
Yeah, but the question is that what Fred wants to do?
I mean, you should be doing what's best for the team, right?
I'm not going there. I'm going to decline to comment on that one.
I mean, yeah, this team to me has an identity issue, and it's had it for quite some time. And this leads me into my next thing is, how much of a divide is there between coaching and management? Because if you look at some of these moves and some of the things that we've seen on the court, it really doesn't seem to be meshing. The moves they're making and the coaching that they have. How much of it is a divide between management and coaching that's causing these problems?
I mean, that's a good question. But before I talk about that, I'll just quickly say Pascal and Gary seem to have a good synergy together when they're on the court together. Now, obviously, I have my issues with Gary Trent in terms of consistency, but I do think that with Gary going to the bench and with Nurse not staggering Pascal with Gary, that could have an effect on both of them. It'll definitely help Gary, and it should help Pascal. But yeah, sorry. And then the other question, sorry, could you just repeat that just one more time?
Yeah. to your point, Gary, maybe that's why Gary's 2 for 20 his last 2 games, but we'll talk about him after. How much of it is a coaching management clash with player selection?
Right. I mean, you heard after the deadline. I think that, for example, there's a chance that perhaps they as in management wanted them to play Flynn to, showcase him, perhaps, showcase his talents. And so, based on, sorry.
What is there to showcase? It's been 4 years, but anyway.
So I think that they tried to showcase Flynn to or whatever, because right after you saw Banton play, like literally the next game after, and like Flynn's minutes started going down, and then you saw Jeff Doughton play. So there's definitely, and management said, like, we got to get these guys playing. We got to develop them. That's important, and I don't disagree. So I think that there's something to be said for there's probably a divide. I think that there's also a minor divide between perhaps Masai and Bobby. I think Bobby's a little bit more shrewd and prudent at times. Yet with what's his name, with almost too prudent in a sense with like how he's given out those contracts. Masai tends to think long term, and is very loyal. And so I think that there's something to be said for waiting too long or being, I don't want to say too loyal, but there's something to be said for indecision. And I think that we face that this trade deadline.
Does it make sense to you that Koloko was banished the way that he was?
People won't agree with me on this, but I was fine with him going to the G League because he came out great and then kind of was slumping, and it was obvious that he needed development. Now, at the beginning of the year, I thought that they were going to give him the Banton treatment and slowly bring him along. They almost did it in reverse. They started him and then sent him down to the gulag, and then I guess now they're bringing him back up. So I think that there's something to be said for that. And also within that, right, like you bring in Pirtle, there's another guy that's struggling, which is Precious. So there's a lot of things that have been thrown out of whack. I think ultimately it will lead to good things. I know other people have not been super high on the Pirtle acquisition. I am one of the people that is high on the Pirtle acquisition, and I see a long-term fit. But, ideally, Pirtle can extend his range beyond 8 feet. And if that happens, which is possible, it is actually possible. He's shown like a touch of, hook shots here and there and that sort of thing. So I think if you can get him like not in like the extended mid range, but in the mid range, I think that could even open up things in the future. So I mean, I remain optimistic.
I mean, they're going to have to figure it out, or Nick is going to have to figure out, because they're going to have Pirtle, Siakam, and Barnes on this team next year. I mean, you don't trade a 2024 first rounder if you're not keeping Jakob Pirtle. So is it up to Nurse to figure out or the players to figure it out? Because when they made that move, you knew they were going to be defensively better, but offensively worse. And so is it up to management to get some shooters, or is it up to the players to figure this out, or Nurse to figure out, hey, we have to play a certain way if we want to win?
So here's the interesting thing is I don't have the numbers in front of me and I'm like trying to quickly grab them, but I believe they're actually better with Pirtle on the court offensively as well. That's the interesting thing. Part of it is we're misusing them. Like this is crazy. He has an offensive rating of 136. Which is crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like people actually think this was a bad trade, and I'm like, how? How is it his fault?
I said this to Beyond. This is just a really quick aside, but he's not there anymore. But there was, until I think the last game or two, Yeah, I think before the last two games, Pirtle's PER for his current Raptors stint was equal to Luka's.
Jesus.
Yeah, like it's so yeah. Like I don't think that he makes things worse. It's just we're not like the way that you use Pirtle is you use those screens and you have to use them for everyone. But the thing is we're not doing any other. Like there's moments still where like you'll give a guy a ball. It's not always Siakam, even though he gets a lot of blame for it. Sometimes it's Fred. Sometimes it's Scotty. Sometimes it's OG. And it's like, okay, ISO, wait. So, you know what I mean? Like pump fake, ISO, jab step. And it's like, what are we doing? And then everyone is watching.
Yeah, it really is
And
that. That's how their offense is. Yeah.
like on the offensive end, why are we not using Pirtle with Siakam, but having Pirtle screen higher? And look, if
Yes.
I
Yes.
understand that some people have pointed out that hey, Pirtle, like I forget which team it was, but there's a guy that wasn't really guarding Pirtle by like
Lakers. I think it
was
was
it
the
Lakers?
Lakers.
Okay, so yeah, so he wasn't
Davis
guarding.
wasn't. Yeah, Davis wasn't guarding him. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like again, I've seen Pirtle's mid range. I mean, like if I pull up the thing really quickly, like I think that he shoots okay from like that range, and even still, his roll gravity and stuff like that is still so good that. So yeah, so I'm looking right now. He's still like from like the top of the key. He's still shooting 53%. That's fairly solid.
Right.
Like
Right.
I'll take that. So why don't we
Yeah.
do more of that? There's there's something to be said for like I get it the whole Van Vliet pick and roll thing, but there's something to be said for other find three things that work offensively and rotate between those things and don't do anything else.
Yeah. But is it Gary Trent and Fred struggles? Like Fred's been better recently. I think Fred's been better for. He's been better for a while now. He's had good games and bad games, but he's been better than he was earlier this season. But Gary Trent seems to have. He's very streaky and seems to struggle. So is it all the guard? Like to me, the guards are really a major problem for this team, especially with Pirtle, because if they're not penetrating or shooting the ball well, then you can really sag into the paint and force bad 3-point shots, which leads to easy buckets the other way, which is what's happened on this road trip. So, am I okay? Does it make sense that I'm blaming the guards?
The only way, because a lot of people talk about spacing, and yes, Barnes needs to get a better shot and stuff like that. But the only way that this works is you ultimately, even if you have the improvements of, let's say, Pirtle is solid, not just in front of the rim, but on the side, he actually develops a mid range. You would still need one of Pascal or Barnes to improve shooting. Fair enough. I'm not saying it has to be perfect improvements, but let's say both of those guys are able to Pascal shooting 34%. Let's say Barnes shoots 33%. Like a real 33%, not just like a couple games and then but consistently 33%.
Yeah.
You're cracking up. But yeah, so in all seriousness, that might be enough. But realistically, to then that's probably enough to maybe make you a fifth or sixth seed. To push you to that next tier, you need the guards. You need a dynamic guard. At least one solid dynamic guard, ideally on both ends. Doesn't have to be the same player even.
So that leads me to our next topic, the draft. The Raptors are currently 19th in the standings. You can give the odds as you have them, and I don't. What's it going to take for them to get a dynamic guard? Do they have to move up in the draft? Do they? Is there somebody out there not named Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson that can help this team right away?
I mean, Wemby would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is with Wemby is he doesn't want to play down low, so he could be a guard potentially. But I'm not going to make this about Wemby. I'm not going to dream today. We'll talk about things that are reasonable. So I guess the real question is, well, you know what? I'll hold that for a second. The short answer is yes. Okay, there are several guys that will be in our range. And there's not a significant drop off between, say, 5 to like 15, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some people
Okay.
might argue with you, but I think that there's definitely guys. Now, the real question then becomes like we're probably talking about a guard, unless it's a wing like that can really, really shoot. So the real question is, what type of player are we talking about? To me, you need a shot creator, but not only a shot creator who can self-create, but someone who can ideally create for others, or at the very least, they have to be a plus defender.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that exists.
So we would have to move up to get that.
Nope. No.
No.
I don't think we have to. That's the nice thing about this draft. I don't think we need to move up, but I think I won't say the worst thing. I think there's still guys available, even if you make it through the play-in and all that kind of stuff, and you get trounced as an 8th seed. I struggle with seeing the point of that, but I think that there is a reason, or I think that there's a reasonable belief that you could get someone decent in even the range that they're in. So right now the Raptors are they have the 10th best odds. If you selected within that range, you're still looking at one of the guys potentially getting there. And I don't think you need to like hope that a guy falls. Like there's still really solid guards that fit that bill.
Okay. I mean, I think this team is just there. I think there are people, and I don't want to say everyone, but when I'm on Twitter, that really deep down believe this team is better than they are. I'm not one of those people. I think they are exactly what their record says they are. They've been inconsistent all year long, and they have a definite problem on both ends of the floor, and they struggle in pretty much every aspect of the game, despite having a Pascal Siakam on their team. So if you're looking for the Raptors to be competitive, then, in my opinion, one of two things has to happen. You got to start over at guard, which I want to do. No Gary Trent or Fred, and you draft somebody. Or you've got to make a major trade that leads to you having someone that can help out Pascal Siakam at the number 1 spot. I don't know if that trade's available because I don't think there's a DeMar Kawhi trade out there. But I think Siakam is more of a number 2. And I know I'm not trying to get into a debate with you. I understand that I don't want to talk about number 1, number 2. What I'm saying is
you're saying it's not Westbrook?
No, I'm not saying it's Westbrook. Lord, Westbrook. If you want me to go on a tangent, I will. The Clippers signed this guy, and they're better without him already. But I'm not going there. They beat us in the 4th quarter because they benched him the whole 4th quarter. But we'll talk about that. Kawhi's back, and we'll talk about that. But it's, to me, Siakam was a much better player as a guy who could be a number 1, but was a number 2. And obviously having Kawhi really helped him. Is there a guy out there that the Raptors could get where he could come in and potentially be the number 1 guy who helps Siakam not be the number 1 guy? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. I was going to say it's definitely not Paul George because he just said he's
not
number 1.
No. It's not Paul George. It's not Paul George. It's not Paul George.
Man. Yeah, I mean, there's guys that could potentially be it. I'm going to throw a name out there. I'm not big on the name, but I'm just throwing the name because he would fit the bill of what you're looking for. Now, actually, I'll actually throw two names, but from the same team. Um, DeMar is one because I think DeMar would help you at least in the mid range, and he is a ridiculous scorer. I don't think he solves all your problems, and I think you still run into issues. But again, like he's a lot more dynamic than what we have, so that's for sure. Um, the other one would probably be Zach Levine. Again, I'm not big on these players, so I wouldn't make the trade. I'm not suggesting that. Um, Another interesting name might be like if you're looking at someone who's a little bit younger, an RJ Barrett, and then you hope that he kind of grows. And then the final guy is it depends on the Nuggets, and you were probably uh, your guy that you keep mentioning is Jamal Murray. So
That's the guy.
that's kind of my list of like realistic people that you would look for.
For me, that's the guy. I don't think we can get him, but Jamal Murray is the guy. He's shown in the playoffs already when he had that battle with Donovan Mitchell that he can be the number one guy. He came back on Kawhi and Paul George in the playoffs and tore them apart in the playoffs, along with Nikola Jokic before he was a two-time MVP. He's just getting back now to full strength from his knee, and we're going to find out this year if he can lead the Nets, the Nuggets, to a title, because we know what we're going to get out of Jokic, but he needs Jamal Murray to be what he was 2 years ago. So we'll find out, but that's the guy. The question is, and I'm not saying that you want to do this, but I think OG's the guy that the Raptors are going to have to pedal to get better. The question is, can they get someone like that for an OG or for OG and someone else?
Well, if Fred was not given a player option, um, perhaps you would be having a different conversation, right? Because
we're the friendliest organization in the world. These goddamn player options.
Yeah, so I think that would be what you would be ideally looking for. It's a lot harder to work a sign and trade. So realistically, I think if you're trading OG, you're more so looking at getting at least a solid prospect and maybe a pick from a team that is desperate. You're not going to get multiple picks, but you might get one really solid pick and one really solid prospect, depending on like salary cap and stuff, which we won't get into today.
Mm-hmm. Would you do? So would you do a? Well, I can't say that. Like I was talking about a major player, but is OG a draft? Is OG a draft day? Yeah. If OG's a draft day deal, is he going for a pick or is he going for a significant player that can help us next year?
It'd probably be a pick, but you could get a significant prospect, right? Like it's like that's where okay, I'm just going to throw out a team like the Lakers, right? Or so the Lakers will want to win next year, and you get Malik. Let's say you trade for Malik Beasley, and you get the Pelicans pick because there's a swap, or whichever pick is worse. So I mean, both teams don't look like they're in the playoffs right
now. No. Well, they have the same record, I think, New Orleans and the Lakers. They have the same record.
They do. They do. So, yeah. So, I mean, if whichever team doesn't make the playoffs, you deal with them and you take their pick. But, yeah. And so, getting a Lakers pick and a Malik Beasley, that's not a bad way to go, in my opinion. Or getting a Dyson Daniels. And whatever else you get, that also might influence who you draft, because instead of getting I think some people see Cason Wallace more as a combo guard rather than a point, but I think his playmaking has been good. But he's in Kentucky, and Kentucky has done certain things with their guards where they kind of box them in certain ways. But let's say you get a Cason Wallace or a Nick Smith. that might influence who you get back as a prospect or vice versa, right? So if you get Dyson Daniels, you might want to, and you truly believe that he can create for others, you might go for a Grady Dick instead because you're like, okay, let's just go for a pure shooter, the best shooter in the draft kind of a thing. So I think it'll influence your draft strategy as well.
So you and I would both agree the Raptors are 4-5 since the break. I had them at 12-11, and I believe you had them at 14-9 after the break.
I said that they could get there. I said that they could get there. I didn't say for sure.
I look to be more right, but it doesn't really matter because whether one of us is right or not, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. We can both agree there that they're an early out. So what would you do if you're Masai Ujiri? We're gonna call you Kenyon Ujiri right now. All right. What are you doing with pending free agents? How are you reshaping this roster? Assuming they're keeping Pirtle, because I can't see any scenario where they don't keep Pirtle.
No, like Pirtle's you've already
signed.
Negotiated the contract.
Yeah.
And everything. It's just a matter of like, to
me, the three guarantees are Scott, Pascal, and Pirtle are the guarantees. OG's on the final year of his deal, and the other guys are all free agents or tradable.
Yeah, I think it's simple. You have a talk with OG and you say, all right, so what do you think of that?
Still want to be a number one option.
Yeah, and you really ask him like what he wants, because in my mind, I know that there are other people that will disagree with this one way or another, but I don't see Fred coming back one way or another. But I think he might be amenable to working out a sign and trade. I think it helps him out to get paid more. I think it helps the opposing team because, like, for example, the Magic. Currently, they have slated between 20 and 30 million in cap room coming up. They can create up to, I think, 49, but they would have to relinquish guys. So at that point, you might as well just, if you want to sign Fred to a $30 million plus deal, then it's in your best interest to work with us and to help. We'll help him, and you'll help us, and we'll help you, I guess. So,
do you have the number of we can pay Fred? Is it? It's over 30, correct? If we want to sign and trade, we could give him even more. Yeah, us.
I mean, we can give him whatever we want. I don't have the maximum number right now, but technically, once he becomes a restricted free agent, you can pay him anything short of a supermax.
Right.
Which is not going to happen.
No. Okay, so he's a sign. I think he's going to be signed in trade. To be honest with you, that's what I see coming for him.
Really quickly, just because you asked. So this actually factors into the CBA, and that's one of the things that they're working on. Is I think right now, I want to say it's like 120% bonuses or like increase on extensions, and that's part of the issue. Is that some teams are finding they're having trouble offering guys extensions because a lot of guys are like, I'll just wait till free agency. What they want to do is change that to 150%. Now, Fred wouldn't get that either way, but I'm just saying, like, in the future, you're going to see like a guy. Where it would factor in is it would factor in with a guy like OG, because a guy like OG, he's so underpaid that it's hard to negotiate with him because 120% of his salary, you add 20% to whatever he's making it's not sufficient enough, right? Like he should be getting paid around $30 million, or you would expect that to be fair market value.
Right.
So yeah.
So now we get to the catastrophe that is the bench. We used to be a team that had the bench mob. Those days have long since passed, despite what our friend Brian from To The Point would say, who, by the way, Brian, I need to see you over here commenting. Where are you? This bench is terrible. And I'm trying to be nice because, Kenyon knows me and I'm not very nice. I'm trying to be nice. They're terrible. They're 27th in the NBA Now I'm going to put myself out there, and Kenyon's going to make fun of me, but I like Chris Boucher. I've been a fan of Chris Boucher since Tampa. He's had his slumps, but if you ask me over the last 3 years, and I know it's not saying much, who's given the Raptors the most energy and the most consistent play off the bench, it's been him. Now, that's not saying much, but it has been him. Everybody else, to me, is garbage. Malachi Flynn should not be in the NBA. I'm so sorry, Eric Flynn, if you're out there. He should not be in the NBA. Banton, I really don't have much of a gauge because he hasn't really played very much, but I don't think he's an NBA player either.
He's been injured, to be fair.
Right. It's kind of hard to judge him, right? Jeff Doughton, we'll see. But it doesn't look like he's going to get the minutes. Coloco's a draft pick who's developing. We had Juancho Hernan-Gomez on this team. He's like, Tim, if you're out there, he's gone. Be happy. You can smile now. You don't have to look like Nick Nurse when he's playing. He's awful. He's gone. Will Barton, he is not a backup point guard. He averages 2.7 assists in his career. What is going on with this bench, and what has happened to Masai helping this team? Because since the championship season, it has not been good management-wise, Kenyon, and I'm sure you can agree with that. I love Masai, but it has not been good since Kawhi has left this team. Agree?
Yeah, I mean, you squandered. Now, I understand why they made the moves. It's just maybe they didn't tamper enough, right? But, you know, the idea was originally that, which is why OG didn't get his extension originally. They waited until Giannis signed his contract. And another person that they were interested in was your favorite player, Rudy Gobert.
Oh, God.
So they were looking at those two players as potential guys to bring in. Obviously, they would have wanted Giannis over Rudy for obvious reasons.
Yes.
But you can say that with the Rudy Gobert rumors, that at least they were thinking of getting a center at some point. So, I mean, as much as we ended up with who we ended
Aaron
up with.
Aaron Baines.
Yeah. As much as it was kind of like that, you have to think it could have been a heck of a lot worse. So, well,
you mentioned we could have had Claxton.
Not.
Is that correct?
Nick Claxton was that was someone that they were interested in. Another guy that they missed out on, I think, was Moses Brown. I know that was a guy that they probably should have maybe taken a gander at maybe previously, but they opted not to do that, and they opted for a movie star.
How did the bench get this bad, Kenyon? I mean, Masai's better than this.
Several things. I do think Tampa affected them bad because how the heck do you sell your city when your city's not? You can't even bring dudes into your city, right?
Absolutely.
Did you hear about the process behind the Scotty Barnes draft? How guys would go in and they had this. It's neat, but they had this immersive room with island foods and roti and stuff, and that's like. But it's like there's you know what I mean. Like it's not. There's a difference between that and actually going. I mean, I don't mean to sound like Messiah and say believe in yourself and be proud of you, but it's true. Toronto is a special place. It really is. And there's a difference between going and walking around Toronto, especially during draft time when it's summer and that's the best time to sell the city versus, hey, yeah, put on this VR goggle set and, that kind of thing. It's just not the same. Right. Wow. So I think, I think that they really were hampered for that reason. I think that without getting political or whatever, I think the fact that Canadians had heftier lockdown procedures probably was a bit of a turnoff to some. Hey Nigel, to some some players, definitely some players, and I think. We made bad choices with how we use the mid-level exception and you could argue that we probably should have used the biannual exception this year and bit the bullet.
I want to go back to the Kyle Lowry move. Now, the Raptors did not trade Kyle Lowry at the deadline. I believe the trade that was out there was for Taylor Horton Tucker, and they didn't take that trade, which in hindsight was probably the right move. But then they got Precious. Now Precious we're going to talk about Precious. He has struggled mightily in the last little while, which has led to Koloko possibly coming back up and being the backup center to get him out of that position. But a part of that deal was also getting what is historically called the tragic deal, where we got Goran Dragic, who showed no interest in playing for this team, and then was traded for a first-round pick and Mr. Young. The chain reaction of those two trades, I believe, has led to what our bench is right now. You say yes or no to that?
In part, yeah, but I mean, Kem Birch had nothing to do with that, right? You know, I would say that they could have been worse. Like, imagine if we, instead of getting Precious, would you rather have Precious or Duncan Robinson?
Oh God, no, Duncan Robinson. Yikes! Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So I think, yeah, I know you put a lot of it on the Dragic deal, and I think that there's, I guess you would argue that if they were going to give up, and it depends on how you see Pirtle. I think it can work, but it's going to be a challenge. But you're going to need some dudes, including Pirtle himself, to step up. Someone's definitely going to steal it. I see. By the way, as a side note, you can highlight any of the comments if you want, just by clicking on them. Yeah. So
gotcha.
But what was I saying? Yeah, I think. Okay, so you know the guy that I wanted. Outside
and you know
of
the guy I wanted, and you know the guy I wanted. Vanderbilt, who went to Utah.
Oh, really?
Sorry,
I did
not
know
Vanderbilt. Not Vanderbilt. What's his name? The guy who blocked us 7 times in Utah. What's his name? Kessler. That's the guy I wanted. Kessler in the draft.
Yeah, so
and
I'm going before the draft. I'm saying
before the draft. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm saying out of the players that we could have got with the Dragic deal, you know, I was looking at Bogdanovich, not the one from Utah because they weren't going to make that deal then, but the one
Atlanta Bogdanovich.
Yes. The other person is that if you were going to be trading picks, and this has to do with, I guess, the timing of things. When our pick was 8th, we could have probably pushed to get. We probably could have got Turner, to be honest.
Right.
Right. Now, I don't think it was just as simple as, but like you there, I think you were closer to that. If what was it? They wanted 2 first-rounders. So if you gave up the last year's and a 2024, that would have worked out.
Right.
Offensively, that's no question that's a fit. I was personally willing to give up Gary Trent.
Yeah, we talked about this. You wanted to give up Trent for Turner or some combination of Trent and somebody for Turner.
People thought I was crazy and said that he couldn't shoot. And now they see that Turner can shoot. And yeah.
Okay, Kenyon, Nigel, if you're out there, Tim, someone explain to me the Gary Trent love, because I don't get it. Kenyon, I know your name's Hopefull, but I don't have any hope for Gary Trent. I'm sorry. Why is Gary Trent loved so much? I realized he had a month where he went absolutely nuts, and it led to us having it was a big part of us having a 48-30 record, but it also disguised what we really were, which was not that good. So is it the streakiness? Is it, I don't get the Gary Trent love. Maybe you could explain it to me. I don't get it.
I mean, I'm not going to hate on the guy.
I don't hate him either, but like,
yeah,
I don't hate him either, but okay, he's 24. I get it, Nigel. He's 24, but what does he do great?
He has a really good attitude. That sounds
He wants
really
to be
bad.
here. He wants to be here. That's great. He wants to be here. That's great.
No, but for real though, like he does have a good attitude towards, we put him on the bench. He didn't sulk. He didn't do anything. He just went to work, right? I think the idea is that people like 2K. 2K is a really. Do you play 2K?
I used to. I don't anymore. I used to.
Okay, so here's the thing with 2K. By the way, yes, JD. Unless Reese report deletes this, it will definitely be up. So
Yes,
I don't
it
know if
will
you're
be.
gonna delete this or not, but yeah.
No, I'm not deleting it. It will be on my channel, which is the reason why I created it, and I
Yeah.
hope to do more of these. So no, it will not be gone after. No.
Nice. Sorry. What was the? I
What
lost
does
my
Gary Trent do great?
right. So when Gary is hot, right? Like
Yes.
it's like it's not the man's not hot, but it's the man's not cold song where
He hits everything. He hits
he hits
everything. Yes.
everything and he's
Right.
going off. And the allure of that is that you'll see him go off for a month and he's literally a world beater. I mean,
Yes.
Can you imagine if he was hot during the Philly series? It wouldn't have been close. Right? And
Yeah.
the idea is that if you hypothetically get him to do that, but more consistently. Yeah, photogenic smile.
Yeah, okay. I can go with that, JD.
But yeah, so I think hypothetically, if he could do maybe not get you 30, but if he could get you consistently 18 on decent efficiency, that's something that is lacking. So, but for me, I see something else. I see that he struggles to get to the rim. He struggles with lateral quickness. I'm not going to get into his defense today. And I think he has tunnel vision at times. And I think some people say that, that's Fred. I'm like, he played with Dame. Who do you think he learned it from? He played with Dame. It's not anyone who's blaming Fred, that ain't Fred. Okay. That is not Fred. So, but at the same time, I think that there is a chance that he could be productive. I think he needs to learn how to be productive without the ball. Yeah. That may not be in Toronto.
Correct. So you wouldn't pay him. I would assume you're with me and you would not pay him.
It depends.
Okay.
I would be okay with paying him, but I see it more as an asset retention move, not as a long-term thing.
Yeah, 4 years, $100 million is the max for me on him, and then he's a trade piece at that point. But I don't know if a little while ago, Otto Porter signed, and I'm not making fun of Otto Porter people. I'm just saying he's on our team so I can do this comparison. Washington signed Otto Porter to a 4-year, $100 million deal. And I think I can say they were at the time similar players. I don't know about defense, but I know they were similar type players. Washington didn't know if they wanted to re-sign him.
And Gary Trent?
At the time, they were probably offensively streaky. I think Sacramento signed him to a 4-year, $100 million deal. The Wizards matched it. And then he was traded shortly thereafter. That's the comparison I'm making.
I was going to do it based on memory, but then I also looked it up and I have to disagree.
Okay.
Otto,
go ahead.
Number one, was a better defender. Forget the injury stuff and all that.
Right. Just on player. Right.
Just based on play alone, Otto was longer, better defender, better shooter, more consistently. He was just purely better, and he rebounded. When was the last time Gary got more rebounds than Fred?
Never.
That's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Think. How tall is Fred again?
He's lucky to be 6'1".
Okay, he might be lucky to be 6 feet.
Right.
Soaking wet.
Right. Yeah.
In shoes. Okay.
Yeah.
And Gary's 6'5". why is Fred out rebounding Gary?
Yeah. Good
You
question.
can't say that about Otto. You cannot say that about
No,
Otto.
Otto rebounds and defends better for sure. I don't
And he
know
did
how he
back
was
then
in
too.
Washington. Okay, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't watch him in Washington, to be fair.
So
but he did get a big contract. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at his stats right now. The 2 years before, and I'm just looking at his first when he was 23. That year and the year before, he had 5 and 4 rebounds a game. Sorry, 5 and 6 rebounds a game. He still had, and he still had 1.6 steals and stuff like that.
About
Very
16
low
points a game.
turnovers.
Is that
Very
right?
low.
About
turnovers.
16 points a game.
Sorry.
16 or 17 points a game, if I remember correctly.
He did that after he got the money, I think.
Okay. Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So so again, better efficiency, right? More consistency. Neither player got to the line very much, but that's not what Otto's about. But at the same time, it's like, so then what else is Gary offering you? And that, I think that's kind of what you're hinting at, is like, why are you, like, it's.
So then in that case, why are we keeping Trent if Porter's going to be back next year, assuming he's healthy enough to play?
The reason why is because, again, the last statement, can you say that again?
So if Otto Porter's healthy, and
okay,
that's a big
say that one more time.
Okay. I'm just saying he only costs. What did we pay Otto, by the way?
6.3 or something like that, or 6. Yeah.
So injury prone, 6 million, better player off the bench, 25 million, younger, healthy, streaky.
Look, I mean, I'll put it this way: Otto is good. It's just what you need to do if you're going to be competitive is you need to be in a situation where you can load manage Otto to 60 games. I think that's doable.
Yeah, he's not going to play a full season for sure. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, but 60 games is reasonable. I think that's fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and on low minutes or whatever. So I think that's reasonable. To do that, you need someone other than a rookie coming in, because you need some depth. So, and the free agent market this year is not good unless there's a certain guy who likes to make certain statements about certain people and doesn't like certain jabs. Unless you're going with that guy, or unless you think that Chris Middleton is going to leave, which again, injury prone and will be expensive. I think that it depends on what you get in the draft, but you're likely looking towards keeping Gary for at least another year.
I'll say this about Chris Middleton.
You look very uncomfortable, by the way, with that statement.
I am. I like Chris Middleton. I don't think the Bucks win the championship without him. Because they didn't. Because if you remember, when he got hurt, they did not win the championship without him. I know Drew Holiday is a major part of that team, and he's the engine outside of Giannis. He's so good defensively. But Chris Middleton makes all the big shots. And man, if someone could tell me his knee's healthy, and then I would take a flyer on Chris Middleton. I really would.
You want a hot take? Giannis isn't the closer on that team. Giannis doesn't take the last shot.
No, he isn't. It's Holiday or Middleton, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying if you can pick something off the Bucks, even Brook Lopez, anybody, Grayson Allen, I don't care. Like, I would think about it. If he takes a little bit less because of his injuries, maybe the market's not huge for him because he's coming off 2 major surgeries. Like, I would think about Middleton. I would think about Middleton. Am I crazy?
Thanks, Nigel. Yeah, I know it's some people don't would disagree, but yeah, no, it is. Brooke Lopez is interesting, but I don't think he's not a free agent. They're not letting him go. The other
No,
thing
no,
though
I
is
just
that I
I
don't
just
want a
threw it out there,
34.
but
Oh, okay,
no,
yeah,
no,
because I'm
I
like I don't
understand.
want.
No.
I know
Hey,
coach was asking me
Nigel,
for.
which take was boring? Which take was boring, Nigel?
He's talking about my take. My take.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Giannis isn't the
But
closer take.
am I crazy on Chris Middleton, or what would you think about it? Because I think he's really good if healthy.
How many games did he play this year?
Oh God, not a lot.
Yeah,
26, 27 maybe.
Okay,
Like
how about this?
you'd have to know he's healthy. Obviously, you'd have to know. Like you'd have to check out his knee. You'd have to check out his wrist.
Yeah, like I want to see the medical records. Okay.
Right.
Like if I can see the medical records before he signs, like if you're like, because he's at a good age. He's at the tail end of his prime, but like his game will age pretty well, I think. Overall.
Like the Raptors need someone who can take big shots, and he's the guy. If you want someone to take big shots,
he is.
right?
It's just I don't know. Like, would he leave Giannis?
This is a good question. I don't know if he's going to stay because he would have already re-signed. Well, no, they don't re-sign until that's right because of the CBA. But I'm just wondering. I'm wondering on that. They have the cap space, I would assume.
You mean the Raptors?
Oh no, Milwaukee. I assume that they can.
I mean, they're capped out because like they gave Giannis a supermax, right? So
right.
Look.
So
I brought up these guys for a reason because I'm saying that though if you want to go big, that's how you go big. But other than that, like there's not really a lot of options.
Yeah, I mean Middleton. I almost forgot about him, but he really is the only major guy that I saw in free agency that I would take a look at. Just
He's
because
31.
He is 31, but the Raptors need a shot maker, a guy who's not afraid to take last second shots, a guy who can hit threes. I think he can penetrate. I haven't watched him too closely, but I know he's a big shot maker because I remember in the playoffs he was so good in the playoffs when they won, and they wouldn't have won without him. So he's not a superstar, but he's certainly a guy who can take pressure off of Pascal and Scotty. So not the worst idea if you're going to get rid of Trent and Fred or just Fred.
Yeah, and I said like when I say he's 31, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean like he's like I'd rather that than like you're going and trying to sign like okay, I mean KD's KD, so that's a whole different story. But I'm trying to think of like
Kyrie. We're not going to sign Kyrie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, like I guess that's what I'm saying is like between the two free agents out there, right? Would you rather? Sorry, I can't say it straight, but it's like if you're telling me Kyrie or Chris Middleton, most people would say they would take Chris Middleton. And a quick aside about Kyrie, like Kyrie is from an offensive standpoint and nothing else. Like he's
outstanding.
He's incredible, like 50, 40, 90. Like he's crazy.
He's incredible.
Multiple times.
He's just nuts.
Too.
He's just out of his mind. That's all.
He's an interesting character. I'll leave it at that. So, and honestly, with Kyrie, I think, I mean, he said it the other day. I think he's gone through some hurt, clearly, and you feel for the brother, and
Nigel, I am not paying Fred. No, I am not paying that man. No, he's okay, but he's too injury prone, and he's jacking up too many shots. I'm not paying Fred. No. Get somebody else or play somebody else there. I'm not paying Fred. I'm sorry.
Let me actually ask Nigel this: would you rather Fred or Chris Middleton?
Let's wait for an answer.
Yeah, because I think the YouTube is on a slight delay.
Yeah. Fred or Middleton? That is a good question. I know what my answer is. Well, I'll say this, and I've said this before. Okay, good, Chris. Well, that's the right answer. Now, Hopefull's going to get on me here, but I want Tyus Jones. He's only 26. He's ripping it up for Memphis. Ja Rule over there, Mr. Ja Morant. I call him Ja Rule because he likes to flash guns on Instagram, which is what Ja Rule did in his music videos.
Some of those Instagram lives were very weird. It was like he was like the only shirtless person in like the room too, and I'm like,
yes. What is he doing? What is he doing? But anyway, Tyus Jones. I warned you people about Tyus Jones, didn't I? I said, get Ja Morant off that team and see what he does. What's he doing now? 25 and 10 every game. So I was right. And Kenyon, I don't know if you agreed or not. He has no upside. Bull. He's making a mess in Memphis right now. We could have had him for OG. And that center that I like.
Tyus Jones, you mean?
Yes, Tyus Jones.
Well, so first of all, the person was saying they were just asking like same price, and yes, the question was Fred or Middleton for the same price. So
yeah, Middleton's gonna get $30 million a season.
Yes,
so, be the same price. Yeah,
he'll probably get. He's making 35 now, so yeah. But
so then maybe more, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would, if there's a way to facilitate something there, I would do it. Hands down, without question.
By the way, Fred, if he leaves, Fred's getting 35 if he leaves to go to Orlando or wherever. He's going to get paid. So.
He very well could. There's another. Okay, there actually I forgot. There's a couple names. There is actually a couple of names. Now I'm not into all these names, but I'm just tossing out the names. D'Angelo Russell.
He's free, correct? He is free this year, right?
He is a free agent.
Wow, that's interesting.
There is also James Harden. Now, I know you're probably going to be like, no, thank you. But
would he come here? Would he come here?
He does he has a particular fancy for a certain kind of club, and maybe the talents here is in those sorts of clubs are good.
You know what? I've changed my mind on him. I wouldn't be against James Harden. I would not. He is older, he is slower, but man, can he pass the basketball? And I think he's still a better shooter than Fred. He can still penetrate all right. He doesn't get to the line as much as he used to because he's not as fast, but I wouldn't mind getting James Harden. I'm not against it.
Yep. There's also Dylan Brooks.
Oh no! Thanks for Dylan Brooks. No.
I just want.
He can stay in the club with Ja Rule in Memphis.
Yes. There are. I'm looking at ones that don't have team options. So there are a couple other guys as well. But in terms of like your point guards and guard spot, the only other guy I would say, I don't know how much he's going to go for, but is the Bogdanovich that I really like. So that's an interesting guy. But the point is there are guys that do offer you something that will be available in free agency. So, for example,
like
I was going to say, if you do let Fred go, you might have to facilitate some of this stuff. The Lakers would be perfect because if you are interested in D'Angelo Russell, that's a perfect swap.
Yeah, I think Russell's going to leave and they're going to sign Kyrie. That to me is pretty clear. Russell,
I think it's going to be AD outgoing. Kyrie comes in. If it's that,
it could be. Although him and LeBron, I don't think they're going to win anything with just him and LeBron.
That's their problem.
AD might be the biggest enigma in the entire NBA. I mean, he got 8 points and 9 rebounds against the Raptors, and they still won because D'Angelo went off because Nick Nurse still hasn't figured out how to guard him. But what I'm trying to say, guys, if you're out there, I understand your attachment to players, and this happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. We get attached to players, and it's like there's no way in the world we could trade them. There's no way we can do something different. Well, if you're not going to win anything with these players, then you have to be smart about it and say we need a change. Not necessarily tanking or going all in, but you need something different. And that's what we're talking about here, because what's currently going on is not working. And if you ask me personally, and I'll ask Kenyon this as well, I think 48-30 was more of an outlier than what is going on this year, in my opinion. What do you think, Kenyon?
So you're okay. Yeah, this is about the record. I think that there are a lot of things that went wrong this year, including chemistry.
Okay. Right.
You look back in hindsight, hypothetically, if, for example, Fred was in an off-ball role and committed to that, and there was role definition, and Otto didn't get, injured and stuff like that, you'd say, okay, maybe not, right? Like, this is like, I don't think that we get the same results, but we live in reality, or this timeline, and this is where we're at. I think last year, I don't think that they, because to go from, they were what, the 5th best team in the NBA? No, they were like top 2 from January.
They were 48-34, and they were 5th in the East
from January onwards.
Oh no, they were one of the best teams in the league from January onwards, I think.
So like, it's like the Knicks this year, right? The Knicks are one of the best teams. If you look at record wise from January onwards, do you think that the Knicks are an aberration?
No.
Yes. That's what I mean.
Yes,
like, I don't think that we just got lucky last year. I think, it's not like a whole bunch of dudes were like injured last year and we just got lucky with our schedule. We played some tough games down the stretch, like against Miami, for example, and we had a lot of tough back-to-backs that we did well at. What happened, though, is we played positionless basketball for the second portion of the year. Our defense really locked down. Barnes, some people will say he was gunning for an award or not. He's fully in his right to do that. Either way, whatever it was, he had a fire under him for all of last year, the second half, where he really turned it on and was like just dominating. And so
were we streaky because of Fred's all-star first half, Gary Trent's crazy month of February, Pascal's consistent play, and Scotty's rookie of the year? Because all those players, not named Pascal, have dropped significantly this year, in offensively especially, and I guess on both ends if you look at it, really.
Well, you know what? Let me talk up Fred for a second. He hasn't gotten any love yet. Fred, when he was on, created a lot of gravity on the court, right? And there's something to be said for that. Now, I say he probably should have gotten surgery.
Yeah, he should have. No
right?
doubt.
He had a guaranteed contract for next year that he could still even opt into. He could get surgery today.
Would you say he's still not looking 100% healthy all season?
What I'm saying is that when you don't get surgery and it's on like a knee or a hip, and you start compensating over time because you think, okay, I'm going to get the rehab. And if if you don't do the rehab perfectly, which who does, right? You have to have it so perfect. You start, let's say you brush off that little nagging, like, my knee hurts or my hip hurts just ever so slightly. You start walking different. You start shooting different. Yeah. You start using your legs differently in your shot. And then it starts to spiral. And then by the time you do fix that, your whole biomechanics is different. Yeah. So to me, that is a huge reason for why we've struggled this year. I'm not putting it all on, he didn't get surgery, it's terrible. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that that's where your point of attack is, right? A lot of it has to do with our guard play. Obviously, the center spot. You saw when we got a center, like whether people wanted this guy or Kristaps Porzingis or what, we got a center and we saw improvement. Now we have to address 100%. The other issue, which is shooting and guards.
Yeah. Defensively, we've been and when I say way better, I'm talking like 30 points better defensively. And that is a direct result of Hurdle being in a spot where before it was an easy layup because Gary Trent and Fred have been blown by all season long. Like, just the blow-bys on defense is as big a reason as any is why we're bad this year.
You know what, though?
Yeah.
Fred did a good job against Beal. I really got to say he did a really good job against Beal. So, again,
Yeah.
I'm – see, Nigel, I can give Fred love.
Fred, I know you guys weren't here earlier, but I said Fred the last 20 games minus a few here or there has been a much better player, 100%. He wants to get paid. I mean, I would be playing well too right before my contract ended if I wanted to get paid. The question is not about Fred and hate or love, because I love Fred. We don't win the finals without Fred. But the question is, do you want to pay Fred at 29 years of age with his injury history and his streakiness 30 to 35 million a year over a 4-year deal when you have holes on this team that you need to make better? I just don't think you can pay a guy who shoots under 40% and his height with injuries, with his regression on defense and his inability to drive the lane and make layups that much money. I just don't think you can do it. They'd be better off trying to get someone else a little bit cheaper or drafting somebody. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this before, and I'm sure I hope Hopefull will agree, the development of Scott Barnes is going to determine where this team goes in the next 2 years. He has to become what a lot of people believe he can become. And that's better than Pascal and perhaps a number one option who can become an MVP or somebody who can affect the game at an MVP level, maybe not necessarily all with points on both ends. We've seen this in the fourth quarter from this man, and it frustrates me to all hell because there have been games in the fourth quarter where he looks like the best player in the league. And then the rest of the 3 quarters, he looks like a guy who should be in the G League. Hopefull, am I off base on that? Like, Scott's development is this entire team's future.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, let's say we go back, which I think is crazy. You can't go back next year with Fred and Gary and
you can't
roll it back. I personally think that that's crazy. But sure, let's say you do that. Even still, it's resting on Barnes. And if you don't, it's definitely resting on Barnes. So no matter what, it's on Barnes. I think Barnes needs to have, whatever happens, to reach your peak ceiling, it's all on Scotty Barnes. Yeah. He is going to be, if not already is, a franchise cornerstone, whether people like it or not. I like it. And I believe in him more than I'm sometimes given credit for. But, I think that, he is your future. Now, regardless of whether you see him as a point. I call him a point blank, but regardless of whether you think he's a point guard or not, which again, if you draft a Nick Smith, for example, or you draft a Cason Wallace, he might not be your point guard, but that's okay. I think either way, Barnes is your future.
Yes, Fred, I do agree with you, JD. Barnes needs to get better defending in the perimeter. There are way too many blow-bys I've seen with Barnes this year. I think he's a little too eager to defend straight up, man-to-man, and that leads to him getting blown by. I think he needs to guard more in a stance where he can body up. I also think that he shouldn't be defending on the perimeter. I think he should be defending more inside. You saw in the Washington game, when he took over that game, he was playing center the whole fourth quarter, and he was all over the floor, blocking shots, rebounding, dunking the ball on people. That's where I want him. I don't want him to be our point guard, like a lot of people want him to be. I want his butt inside, trying to bully people and dominate inside. That's where I want him. As far as why does Nurse play so high, I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
Because
Barnes versus the Lakers was
just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. Can we just focus? You said a point before you move on that was interesting to me. Now, you said that he can't be a point guard. So to me, I think
Not
he can.
not can't, but I prefer him inside as a power forward per se, where he can use his passing ability from the paint instead of from the top of the lane. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, so that's one thing where I'm not 100% sold one way or another, because
Okay.
I'm not saying he's Magic, because Magic's a different person, especially his
Right.
personality wise.
Right.
But Magic couldn't shoot. Magic got his butt in the paint. Magic was still a point guard.
Yes, but if you notice, Magic was at his best in the half court when he was backing that guys down and using his over the top passing.
Exactly. So this is what I'm saying, is that Beyond's not here, but I'm going to make Beyond's point for him, which is maybe it's how Scotty wants to be used. Maybe Scotty views a point guard as a particular kind of style of play.
Right.
Which is not the same as the because old school point guards, I think, what was it? Gary Payton was one of the last back to the back point guards.
Yeah, Chris Paul did it for a little while in New Orleans.
Yes, a little bit, but most of these guys aren't back to the back to the basket point guards, right? But right now with Barnes' skill set, if you want to put the ball in his hands, I'm okay with that. But he has to, Andre Miller as well.
Yes, Andre Miller, 100%. Yes,
you really have to use him in a different way. So I think you can still run the offense through him. I think he can still be a point guard, but where he is placed on the floor might need to be changed.
Yeah, I think at the top of the key, too many turnovers. I've seen this year when he tries to initiate from the top of the key, he's throwing the ball away way too much. I think Pascal's better there, especially if you're getting rid of Fred. At that point, you'll need someone to handle the ball up there. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think Pascal might be the guy you want with the ball in his hands in that spot, especially if Pirtle's going to play the high post. And then you have, you have Scott doing cuts. You have OG, if he's still there, sitting at the 3-point line. And that's your offense. But the Raptors are going to need a 3-point shooter. And that's why I think Chris Middleton, of the guys that I'm thinking of, would probably be the guy. Harden could be your point guard if you were able to get him, and that changes everything.
That's super high end, by the way. I like Harden would be a tough sell. But like if you could get him, that would be.
It changes everything.
Significantly better. There's no anyone arguing that we wouldn't be better with Harden on this team is crazy.
Right.
But I think you could get Bogdanović.
Is he a point or a shooting guard?
He's a shooting guard, but he played point guard like growing up all the way until he got into the NBA. He has point guard skills. He at the very least he could help initiate the offense and be a release valve in a lot of ways. He's a 40% shooter, basically on his career, from three, 38.7, I should say.
And I don't think the Hawks are paying him. I don't think the Hawks can pay him.
I don't think that they will pay him either. And that's why I think he can.
Right.
I think there's a chance that you get him.
So now we're going to get to something that should interest everybody, and that's Nick Nurse. I know we haven't talked very much about Mr. Nurse, but we're going to now. Kenyon, he's frustrated me all year. I know you've been very diplomatic on him. If I was to grade him right now, it'd be a D for the season. I have not liked his rotations. I have not liked the way he's coached his team. They have struggled on both ends. All I see him doing is complaining to the refs. He's not used his bench effectively. He's overplayed his starters again. You maintain that he needs to continue on until his contract's up. Does this team need a coaching change? No matter what the roster changes are or not, does this team need a coaching change to get to the next level?
Well, Nick, you're not Nick. Quinn Snyder's off the market, so I really don't see. I know someone said Kenny Atkinson. I'm not sure if it was you or not. It might have been you, but I don't really see a guy on the market that I think would be significantly better than Nick Nurse right now. If it was Quinn Snyder, I would say yes. But realistically, I think Nick has 1 year left on his deal. And with a different roster constructed, straight up, I think that Nick really likes Fred, and I can understand why Nick loves Fred. Hey, what's up, Zazu?
Mr. Zazu. Oh, what's going on?
We're
I'm
talking
looking
about your
forward to
favorite
your
person,
comments.
Nick Nurse.
We're talking about the end of, or beginning of Nick Nurse. I'm sure you're going to love that topic, but go ahead, Kenyon.
Absolutely. So, for me, I think he's earned the like when you want a chip. I guess you could say that with any guy on the roster. So yikes, but
Right.
I do think it's earned you certain additional cachet. So 1 year left. You know what I mean? I think it depends on the type of conversation that you have. I think also if you remove Fred Van Vliet from the equation, what happens?
Well, he has to coach because then he doesn't have Fred to say, I'm going to play you the whole game till you actually make a shot.
Yeah, so in some ways, Fred is kind of Nurse's security blanket.
Yes.
And so again, I'm really curious what happens because I'm not. There's times when Nurse deserves blame, and then there's times when he doesn't.
Right.
Last year, I mean, even this year, there are times when yes, he could have played Coloco and stuff like that. But there's other guys on the bench where I'm like, okay, why else? like, come on now, right?
Zazu, you're not far off. That if they redo this, if they redo this roster, yeah, he's gonna have a pretty short leash next year. I would agree with that. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So I think you give him a deadline internally and you say, hey, you gotta do better. I think you also talk to the players and get their input in the summer. I think that there's going to be a lot of very long conversations that are had, depending on how those conversations go. And some of them are going to be together. Some of them are going to be separate. That's going to dictate whether or not you get rid of Nick Nurse. That's how I look at it. But I think if you have a different roster, that's what I'm interested in seeing.
I know I've asked you this before and you hate this question. I'm going to ask it anyway. How much of this is on Nurse and how much of this is on Masai this season?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask a different question, but yeah, I mean, I guess. Oh, now I know why I hate it. It's hard to put. I don't like putting percentages. I also don't like grading things.
Right.
So that's probably why I hate it, or why I've said it.
Would this team be better if they had a different coach?
Okay, let's use Quinn Snyder as an example. Yeah, probably, but by how much, I don't know. So, short answer is yes, because a different coach would have potentially managed the relationships better.
Right.
So,
because Fred Van Vliet seems to have a hold on Nurse because of, I guess, his championship contributions.
Yeah. So, I mean, damn, everyone wants to talk about. Like, I feel bad because everyone wants to talk about Fred. Yeah. And then I'm like, I know I'm not a Fred guy, but it's like, damn, everyone wants to talk about Fred.
JD's 75-25 Masai, and Nigel's at 50-50. Zazu, I'm dying to know what you think of this, but go ahead, Kenyon.
Yeah, no, I think that there are just some challenges that exist. And I think that Masai and Bobby, when I say Masai, I'm really talking about Masai and Bobby because I see them as one amorphous blob entity. They done goofed. Okay. Fred, however you believe, whatever you believe it, his value was higher in summer.
100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Simple as that. So, well, some people would say, listen.
Yes, that's true, Nigel. Yes.
Like, and yes, they didn't
Yes.
max. They didn't. Now, Otto would have helped, but again, you still had. They were cheap. These people were cheap. Okay, you could
Yeah.
have. Okay, you realistically, you could have taken this roster, and you could have said, okay, we are going to. We are going to go a little bit into the tax or risk going into that. And by the end of the season, if we need to cut bait, we can. And they could have, you're telling me that they couldn't have overpaid Thomas Bryant getting the minimum by just giving him a biannual exception for 4 million, 4.5 or whatever it is.
The Lakers
That's my
got this
point.
guy for nothing. He got him. The Lakers got this guy for nothing, and he was playing as well as Anthony Davis at points in this season, believe it or not.
And he shot well and all this guy.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out, I brought him up to you privately, remember?
You did.
And you were like, "No, I don't want him because he's too injured."
You did. Yeah, you did. And he played great in LA. And I think, where did he go? Is he in Orlando now? Where is he?
I think so. Because he Mobamba.
He asked for a trade because they got Vanderbilt and Bamba, and I think he's. Do you guys know where Bryant went?
No, sorry,
he went
Denver. Wait,
Denver. No,
yes.
no. Is it
Yes.
Denver? Yeah, Denver.
Denver.
Yeah.
Denver.
Yeah.
I don't know how he ended up on Denver. I'd have to go back, but he's on Denver.
Yeah, he should help Denver too, for sure, as a backup center there for, right. But I mean, it's so disappointing what's happened to this team, and the potential for them to be better. And I guess Scott not taking that step, OG not taking a step, and then the step backs from Fred and Gary. Nobody should be surprised their record with considering if you've watched this team this year, nobody should be surprised that they're where they are. I mean,
yeah, I want to defend Barnes for a second. There are some ways that I think he has taken a step forward. It may not be the expected. There's also ways that he's taken a step back for sure.
Right.
Right. Or at least not performed up to expectations. Because when you win Rookie of the Year, the expectations are incredibly high. Right. And so I think Barnes was and has been defended in a very different way, especially to start the season. The book's out on you. You have a year worth of film to look at a guy. And so the way
they're sagging off of him.
It's like getting into the NBA is one thing. Then like getting to that next level when people know all of your moves, no matter what you've done in the summer, it doesn't matter. We know what you are good at already.
Yeah.
So I'm going to defend you differently. So getting over that's a huge hump to get over. And that's why you hear of guys having a sophomore slump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
now obviously LeBron is LeBron, right?
Well, LeBron is special. Magic Johnson is special.
Yeah.
The thing is that he's allowing teams to defend him the way that he's being defended. And that's what disappoints me. If guys are going to stand like 5 feet from you, you don't just dribble and take a jump shot. You go at them, you draw a foul, or you try to dunk on them. He's not doing that. Or he's looking for a pass that's not there. That's the disappointing part for me. Or he's settling for a three-pointer. That's something Pascal would have done early in his career too. So I'm not going to be too hard on him. But they need him to make that next step next year for sure, because this team's not going to get better without that next step. And I think that's why they're where they are now, because teams are not afraid of him shooting the basketball.
I think the thing with Barnes is there are times. This is my main issue with him. Barnes at times has mistakenly been unselfish to the point where it's at a detriment. So a good example is Cleveland. Okay, you want to run the play, but you have Donovan Mitchell on you, okay? And you're 6'8", no, 6'10", probably, plus an afro. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And you have whatever Kawhi level wingspan and hand and whatever. Why are you calling to get Mobley on you?
Yeah.
And also why
sense.
on top of that, why, because you have Pascal on your left. If you go in to and drive into the lane, I think Jarrett Allen was on Pascal. You're going to pass Mitchell. If Pascal's a spot up, fine, let him spot up. But then you are going to soak his man into you, and you're going to leave him open. So that's the correct play. I think that Barnes sometimes sees that, but he wants to play the game his way. He sees it his way. He wants to play his way. And that's fine. He's a brilliant player. Like I said, he sees the game almost like Gasol, minus the fact that he doesn't have 13, 14, 16, whatever, how many years of NBA experience that Gasol had. So I think that's what it comes down to. And I think he'll get there. I think I really do think next year you're going to see a leap. His leap I don't think that he's ever going to be averaging 30 points or even 28 points, but I think he can get to 20, 22 for sure. I think next year you'll see 18 very efficiently, easily. With all the other,
could he be a triple double guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Where he gets. I mean, he could be. I think it's possible. Maybe a low triple double, but I don't want to say no Jokic, please. I'm not calling this guy Jokic. I'm not going to be like somebody else that I know. But can he average 10 rebounds and 10 assists in a game or close to it? Yeah, it's possible. I mean, obviously the Raptors would need some shooters. But there are ways you can win games. Like, Kenyon, tell me, why is it that the Raptors don't cut as much as they should? And hear me out. We're watching the NBA use the pick and pop. We're watching teams play against the Raptors where backdoor cuts are killing us the whole game. We have athletes on this team. Why aren't we using pin downs and back cuts for easy buckets? Why are we sitting at the three-point line waiting for something to happen in an ISO situation when we have athletes that could backdoor people all day?
You're going to love my answer. Because of Nurse. Okay?
Thank you. I am going to love your answer.
So the thing is that realistically, you hear quotes not put out on purpose to diss the guy, but it's like, your man Boucher, when did he start cutting? When Thad got here. So as much as you don't like Thad helped his career and helped him to get paid, by the way.
Agreed.
Because there's no way that he was going to be, the way that he was playing, he was going to be off this team in a minute and a half.
Yeah, because he was standing at the three-point line. I know.
He was standing at the three-point line. He was flying by guys. He wasn't even playing good defense. Okay. So, but that shouldn't that be the coaching job? Like he even admitted, he's like, Nick was right to bench me, right? He has said that. He's a very honest player. I really like Chris Boucher a lot, actually. Even though I don't sound like I do, I really actually like Chris Boucher a lot. I like his mentality. I love his story. I like a lot of things about him. I actually think he's a really, really good thing. Yes, and when Lowry was here too. But everyone did everything right when Lowry was. But this goes back to the Nick Nurse thing, right? It's like Nick Nurse, I think, has a read and react offense that he feels like you should make the right reads and you are empowered on offense to do the right thing because there's so many different ways that you can let the play develop.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem with that is sometimes guys don't make the right reads or sometimes guys need structure. Not everyone can develop in that way. It's a luxury to have both a player who is able to learn with experimentation, but also be in a system in a place that you can make that work. What I think needs to happen from that standpoint is maybe if you want to do it that way, Have a deadline. Okay, y'all can do whatever you want and play around, and y'all call the shots until December 25th. Christmas Day happens, you open your gifts. We're not even playing on Christmas Day anyways, so it doesn't matter. You take your rest. We're playing Boxing Day. That's the Raptors' Christmas Day. Once that happens, now it's go time. We're going to stop experimenting.
Yeah. I mean, Nick has not changed at all. Like it's like we still have Kawhi on this team when we don't.
I mean, he's trying things. You can't say he's not, because like in January, the offense, there's different wrinkles in the offense, and in February, there's different. So I'm not saying that he hasn't done anything, but it's just so from that standpoint, it's roster construction, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, defensively, nothing different.
No, and this gambling defense, like, it can only get you so far before, and we've seen this wide open 3-pointers and backed out. Like, we're seeing back cuts where it's easy layups. And by the way, for anyone who thinks that, and I'm not saying anyone thinks this on here, but the reason why the Raptors shoot 20 more times than their opponents is because they're bricking every damn 3-pointer they hit, and they're getting long rebounds. It's not necessarily a good thing that they got 20 more shots a game. It means the other team's being more efficient, and they're having an easier time with their offense, because we're trying to gamble on defense and we're throwing up brick loads of threes. And if you look at our 3-point percentage, you would understand that we are a horrendous 3-point shooting team, which leads to long rebounds. And you're going to get some of those long rebounds because, a rebounder is going to be under the rim and the ball is going to fly out to the wing. How much of it? Okay, so we said the Nurse's part. Now, how many times this year have we seen players selfishly try to score themselves on 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, wide open players? We saw Gary Trent do this the other day, and the most egregious one I've ever seen, where he basically went up, Russell Westbrook of all people, threw his shot into next week when Young was so wide open. I mean, Young wouldn't have even had to jump off the ground to make a layup, and he just wouldn't pass him the basketball. And we've seen this with multiple players on multiple occasions. So when Masai comes out and says we have a bunch of selfish basketball players and nothing changes, is that the players or Nick Nurse?
It's tough. Like I said, there's a lot of things to blame. What I'll say is this: when you lose and you are losing more than your expectations, because success is a function of expectation.
Yeah.
A lot of things get amplified. It's one of the reasons why the Raptors never had a lot of things leak in terms of locker room troubles and stuff like that until, after the championship. Because when you're happy, when you're winning, when you're on a mission and you're all united in that mission, you do your job. I mean, you see it at actual work, right? Like when you're working with people and things are good and, no one's getting fired and stuff, everyone works together. Things are good. The water cooler conversation's a lot nicer about the Raptors, where, it just works better. So yeah, that's kind of I'm not going to pinpoint one thing or another. All I'm saying is that I really do agree with Masai in the sense that winning solves everything.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why Fred VanVleet is very frustrated right now, because he's not winning. And in a sense, the more that he wins, the more that he has his contract negotiations bumped up.
Yeah. Well, he certainly helped us win one game. I think it was the Wizards where he just went crazy and made all the big shots.
Yeah, but you can't win with him being your top scorer.
No, you for the most part you can't.
Contrary
We've seen that this year.
belief.
Yeah, we've seen that this year where he's had multiple 39-point games, which all or both losses. He can't be your number one option. I will say this: the way that Fred got that winning shot against Washington is what I want to see from the Raptors moving forward. You had Pascal Siakam at the top of the key. He drove the lane. The defense went into him, and it left a wide open Fred, which is what I've been asking for all season long. You put Scott in the paint. You have Pascal at the top of the key. He beats his defender. He either takes that automatic, mid-range shot from the free throw line, or he passes out to a wide open 3-point shooter, which is where Fred was and made the shot. That was the first time I've seen the Raptors execute an offensive play at the end of a game. It feels like since the championship season. Whereas before they're going one-on-one, ISO, trying to make a wild shot from way outside, whether it be Fred or whoever has the basketball at the time, for the most part, Fred. And it's like, where is that, playing together basketball? We're seeing way too much selfishness on this team, which is why Masai called it out. But then Masai can't complain about it when he trades nobody. He just says, okay, Nick, fix it. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I see the divide, right? 1-4 on the road probably means you're not having any dinners together.
And another thing, really quickly, is that in terms of people keep bringing up Fred's leadership. I want to talk on Lowry just really, really quickly because I do have to go.
Okay, are we doing this Scott thing again? The man's name is Scott.
Okay, really quickly, just to defend you. So in his Twitter profile, I think it's Scotty, but his actual name is Scott Barnes because he's named after his father. So I will defend you a bit. I call him Scotty, but that's just me. But just so people who are frustrated with that.
There's no reason I'm not calling him Scotty. I'm calling him Scott because that's his name, guys. Trust me, okay? But go ahead, Kenyon.
But what was I going to say? Just really quickly to touch on a couple different things. First of all, Lowry was a guy who would take all these guys out for dinner, right? All the time, right? And I mean, maybe that happens with Fred, but you don't hear about it as much. You don't hear Fred bringing all these guys over to his house. You do remember that open gym thing where everyone went to Fred to Lowry's house? And here's the funny thing. Everyone talks about Fred with money. Even then, he's like, man, that's a nice car, right? Like, he's like, yo, I got to get me one of these.
Bet on myself. Bet on myself, man. You got it.
Man, I like this house, right? Like, you think I can get me one of these? Because, it started then. But, like, at the same time, that spoke to Lowry and the type of person that Lowry is, because he was very open. Like, this is my place. Y'all come to my house. Y'all come hang out with me. And, we are family. We are a team. Now, Lowry wasn't the perfect teammate, and sometimes I think it's overblown. I think that the media does this with players a lot, where they will in hindsight or at the time exaggerate his leadership. And I think Lowry grew into a leader here. He really did. He even says, I became a man in Toronto. And I think that's very, very fair. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Lowry, but I feel like every single conversation these days turns into a Lowry love fest and stuff like that. It's like, dude is gone until he's going to sign his 10-day and retire.
They miss him. There's no question they miss him from a leadership standpoint. There's no
question. But you have to be able to transition at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
absolutely. And they haven't really. Fred tried, but they've never really gotten that back, that leader who can get the guys together and, tell people if they're doing something wrong or get them in the right spots, or they just don't have that right now.
Zazu was harsh the other day about Fred, but I think I'm going to actually say that he was as harsh as it was. He was correct. I won't use the same exact verbiage, but what I will say is that it's kind of like, well, what did he do to deserve being projected up into that leadership thing? I don't understand. I never saw it. But everyone says, oh, the leader. The other thing, too, is, in a sense, Pascal is a dude that he just wants the ball, right?
Correct.
He literally just wants the ball out. He's a true I say he's almost like Kevin Durant in the sense that he's a true hooper.
He is absolutely. That's the guy I was thinking of. Other than all the other garbage,
Now I'm
he
not
wants
saying
his
that he's
piece.
Kevin Durant in terms of his
Right.
ability to shoot the ball, but I'm just saying in
Right,
terms of
right.
Kevin Durant in his interviews, he's just like, I just want to hoop. I'm just a basketball player. Pascal Siakam says the same stuff. He's like, I just
Correct.
want to hoop. I'm a basketball player.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
Yep.
like I forget what it was, and they were asking him about like strategies. Like, I don't know. That's not my job. My job is to play well, do my job, and I'm just a basketball player. So.
Yep.
I think what is interesting is that, yeah, maybe there will be a leadership void, but I think that those type of things solve themselves rather quickly. That's true. That is true. But I think the thing is with Fred is that I don't think he deserved to be hoisted up into this leader. It didn't, like the other day. I'm not going to name any names here, but like I was in a Twitter space and someone was saying like, oh, like Fred and Lowry, and I had to call them out. I was like, can we stop? Like, I'm like, Lowry and Fred are different players, and I'm like people forget how athletic Lowry was. Someone the other day was like, Lowry didn't pass when DeRozan was here. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, literally, do you remember Lowry? What did Lowry talk about? He talked about getting other guys paid.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
He literally was like, I need to get my big guys paid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's how he was.
Biyombo owes Lowry like so much for that. What was it, $17 million a year? And it was like back in the day.
Well, that's also dumb Orlando Magic. Let's just keep that.
It is. But the point is that he would not have gotten that deal without Lowry.
Correct.
He got Kevin Birch paid. He made Freddie Gillespie look decent. That's how good Lowry was.
Yeah. Norman Powell as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a lot of people paid.
So,
and I think
yeah,
Siakam, and people may disagree, but I think Kawhi Leonard got Siakam paid because
I disagree.
It allowed. Oh, okay, all right.
I think it's more Lowry actually because
Really? Okay.
Think about it. The way that we use Siakam in transition now, not that it's bad because he can run the break, but he used to run and it was Lowry throwing those outlet passes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what started it, right?
Yeah.
So
well, and he didn't play under Dwayne Casey. That was the other thing. They had to get a new coach.
Yes.
Right. Because Nick Nurse they say Nick Nurse unlocked him, and he developed under Nurse.
Sorry, is Neil talking about Kawhi Leonard or Kyle Lowry? Because you can't just say KL.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
So I don't know which one you're talking about.
Zazu, we realize Fred's not a point guard.
Yeah,
we realize.
No, yes. But yeah, in terms of Kyle Lowry, yes, Neil, you are making my point for me, which is that I'm exactly saying that Lowry is not Fred. That is exactly my point.
No. I think Fred wanted to be Kyle Lowry, but he was never going to be Kyle Lowry. And that pressure may have gotten to him. And that's, so.
Yeah. So can I expand on this just to make sure that it's clear and on the record and all that? Okay. Well, I'll still. Okay. So my thing is that they're completely different players. Lowry hits guys in the short roll. Lowry uses his body. The person that I argued with the most is I'm just gonna call him out because he should be in the stream and supporting you, is Skip. About Lowry and Fred. I argued with him for a month about how they're not the same, and then I finally got him to watch like actual tape, and he's like, "Oh, okay, fine," and I'm like,
"Yeah."
I'm like, dude, it shouldn't take me a month to have you realize that they're not the same player. And that like there's a very big gap between the same. I'm not gonna go off on this, but yeah. I think the other thing, just to kind of cap it off, is that the reason to argue for potential roster construction change, even if it's not major construction change. Yeah, Zazu, I'm saying the same thing. Is basically the fact that this is why Twitter Space is good, because you can actually hear people real time.
Yes.
Is it is better than
Coach, stop it. Stop it, Tim.
You're having a great time.
Stop it, Coach. I know why he's doing that. Stop it, Tim.
I know why he's doing it too.
I have not talked about Flynn this entire time, and I'm not going to start now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was saying actually. I guess the other person is Flynn is goated. Fred needs to be a professional peanut butter spread. Maybe he would be good on that. I mean, he can afford to do that. He can afford to retire and go do that if he wants to.
Zazu, Nick Nurse has never trusted his bench since the finals, and that's why you're never going to get a great rotation out of him. He doesn't trust any of the bench guys. That's clear and obvious. Will Barton was brought in because he doesn't trust his bench. And Will Barton is no better than anyone else we have on our roster right now.
He's better than some dudes. He's better than some dudes.
And I'm sorry, as much as I want to get on Nurse, the bench has sucked all year. I'm sorry, Zazu. The bench has sucked all year. Outside of Boucher, he's been consistent. The rest of the bench is inconsistent and sucks.
He's a doctor.
You saw the Lakers game. They go 28-15 in the third quarter, and then the bench comes in. The bench comes in, and the Lakers take over the game. But yes, Nurse needs a doctor because his face is always red, so that's a problem.
Zazu, you crack me up. You crack me up.
But
it's a doctor.
I mean, the Raptors don't have a bench mob anymore. I'm sorry.
I'm not even gonna go and touch that one. There's a joke there that was recent. I'm not going there.
Hey Tim, just because Juancho is gone doesn't mean you got to rub it in that Flynn's still on the roster. He'll be gone soon.
Yeah, I think why I remain hopeful of the future is because of this, right? We have a lot of directions to go. We have a lot of assets to go into directions, regardless of whether people, agree with that, with what the direction or what assets to use or whatever. It doesn't matter. We can go in a lot of directions. And I think that's pretty exciting. I think that there are other teams where, for example, the Clippers, they don't really have a lot of avenues to go like that. No. They are what they are. And if it doesn't work out, then I don't know what they do, but yeah.
By the way, all you out there, when did Playoff Powell become Petty Powell?
That's a good question. But I have to go. I don't know if you have another guest coming on or.
No, I don't. I just wanted to end it off with Petty Powell. See what people think of Petty Powell, and then we can go.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been great doing a show with you, and I try not to do too many lives myself because, as you see, time just flies.
Yes, I know. Yes, I would like to thank Kenyon for coming on. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me on this space. I really think that it's something I want to do more often, but because when you have a show, you have to cut it off at a certain amount of time. But I love the interaction. I wanted to do this for a while. All you all that are listening, I'd love to have you on as well. I wanted Kenyon to be my first guest. As you can tell, we have great chemistry, and we are able to talk about the Raptors forever. And if Kenyon doesn't cut me off, I will go on forever. So we are going to end it, but I look forward to seeing you all in the spaces. I do believe the Raptors will actually win tomorrow. The Nuggets are vulnerable, and the Raptors are going to look for revenge. So I think they're actually going to win tomorrow. And the 5-5 Raptors will continue to frustrate us until the end of the season, on their way to 12-11 and a play-in spot. So we're going to keep talking about them until improvement is there and until the roster changes. So look forward to that. But thank you all for joining us. Kenyon, thank you. And we'll see you next time on the Reese Report or on Basketball Rewind.
That's true. Yeah, I guess I should quickly plug my stuff. Check it out on, I guess, wherever Basketball Rewind.
Yes. Yeah. Guys, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 people. We're at 639.
Yes.
So,
like, comment, and subscribe, of course, to this one. And if in terms of for myself, I'll just say I'm working on some draft stuff. I'm going to make it Raptors related. So if people are interested in learning about what the kind of player that we can get or should be looking for, definitely check that out. And yeah, take care.
All right, guys. Thank you. See you later.